Imagine this. It's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're relaxing at home, watching your favorite TV show. There's a knock at the door. You open it, and two detectives are standing outside, and they are smiling at you. They seem nice. They say, "We're just investigating a situation down the street. Can we come on in and ask you a few questions to help clear your name?" You let them in. You answer their questions because you have nothing to hide. You think you're helping, but what you actually just did was hand them the conviction they did not have 5 minutes ago. Hi, I'm Attorney Marc Lopez, and for nearly 2 decades, I have sat across good, ordinary people who have ruined their defense, not because they were guilty, but because they believed legal myths they learned from TV police dramas. My goal today is to break those myths so you do not become a statistic. We're going to walk through the 5 most dangerous lies people believe about the criminal justice system. Let's start with the most famous one, and that myth is, if the police arrest you and don't read you Miranda, your entire case gets thrown out. The reality, this is the biggest misconception in American law. Miranda rights only apply to custodial interrogations, meaning they are questioning you while you are in custody. If the police have other evidence, video footage, witness statements, or physical items found on you, that evidence is still 100% valid. Failing to read your rights usually only suppresses what you said after the arrest. It doesn't erase the crime. And I'm gonna let you know something. I watched the body cams. I'm doing this nearly 20 years. Usually it's not an issue of the police asking questions. Usually it's a situation of the person just can't stop talking. Police literally are being quiet and people are just talking. Officer, blah, 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 admit to the crime. Again, I've been doing this nearly 20 years. Usually the issue with confessions is not the police not reading Miranda. It's the person being investigated not shutting up. They just keep talking and they just keep talking, and even the officer's not asking a question. The officer is silent and the person just can't stop talking. And they're giving conflicting versions that don't make sense. They're adding details that are easily disproven because they want to show they're innocent. So again, the takeaway, never rely on a Miranda technicality to save you. The best way to protect your rights isn't waiting for them to read a card. It's keeping your mouth shut from the very beginning. Please understand that. Myth number 2, the search myth. Imagine this. You're pulled over and the officer asks you, "You don't mind if I take a quick look through your car, do you?" Here's the myth. They need a warrant to search my car. Here's the reality. False. Courts have created multiple exceptions for searching a vehicle. The easiest one is consent. Person just agrees to let the officer search the car. And I have seen people do this with nothing to hide, and they just let people search their car, and they end up with all their possessions in the car on the side of the road, and the officer driving away, and they put everything back. I have seen people with things in their car they shouldn't have in their car agree to a search. Even though they know it's against their best interest, they still do it. Simply asking for permission, people usually just give it. They don't need a warrant if you give consent. Even if you don't give consent, if they see you moving around the car in a suspicious manner, if they have reason to believe you've committed a crime, they can likely search that car. But again, the most common way for police to search cars is for the person to simply say yes. Never agree to let the police search your car. If the police ask you, "Do you mind if I take a look?" I don't consent to searches. That's it. Say it just like that. I don't consent to searches. It shuts them down. And if officer pushes back, I plead the 5th. I want a lawyer. Shut them down too. If they do search your car without your permission, make sure you keep saying, "I do not consent to searches," but don't fight them. You can't win against an officer at the side of the road. It's impossible. It's impossible. But your lawyer can win in court as long as you don't sink your own ship. Myth number 3, the silence myth. This next one is tricky because it feels counterintuitive, but the myth is, if I just stand there and stay quiet, I'm protected by the 5th Amendment. The reality is the Supreme Court has ruled that in certain pre-arrest situations, your silence can be used against you. If an officer asks you, "Did you hit him?" and you just look down at the floor and say nothing, a prosecutor can potentially argue to a jury that an innocent person would have shouted, "No, I didn't hit them." So to be fully protected, you can't just be silent. You have to claim the right. So what's the takeaway? Well, you have the right to invoke your right not to speak. The magic words are, "I plead the 5th, I want a lawyer." And then, and only then, do you stop talking. Myth number 4. This brings us back to our opening story. The detective's at the door. And the myth is, if I'm innocent, I should just explain everything to the officer so they can clear me go on with their job and investigate somebody else. Sounds like you're being a helpful citizen, right? But the reality, officers are trained professional investigators. They are legally allowed to lie to you. They can say they have fingerprints when they don't. They can say your friend already confessed, even though your friend did not. The officers are investigating and looking for inconsistencies. And when you try to explain, you might accidentally place yourself at the scene of a crime, or admit to something you didn't realize was illegal, or maybe just say something that makes you not look like a good person. Maybe you were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, unrelated to what they were investigating. Or maybe they can try to catch you in a little lie. Because you know what? Lying to the police, that's a crime. And I have seen prosecutors look at the jury and say, ladies and gentlemen, if he would lie to the police officer, surely he's guilty. I don't like that. That sucks. That's not right. Don't fall for this trap. Do not try to just explain. It's just a terrible, terrible idea, especially if police are at your door. Police don't just randomly go to doors. They either have a gut feeling about it, they have some sort of evidence, someone's pointing them at you. And a lot of officers, well, they're so used to getting inside people's homes simply by asking, they prefer to ask instead of trying to get a warrant. That's true. Think about that. You can Google that. So the takeaway, any interaction with the police is not just a conversation, it's an investigation. The only person you tell your story to is your attorney. Period. No exceptions. Myth number 5. And finally, this one gets people in trouble every single weekend. The myth, I have the right to refuse the breathalyzer without a penalty. The reality, you can physically refuse to provide a breath test or a blood test at the station. But in Indiana and most other states, driving is a privilege, not a right. And by getting a license, you gave implied consent. If an officer has probable cause for an operating while intoxicated, DUI, OVW, whatever your state calls it, and you refuse a certified chemical test, your license is going to automatically be suspended, often for a year. If you have a prior, some states make it 2. And that's going to be regardless if you're found guilty of the DUI later. Now, some of you probably are ready to type one comment, Mark, driving is a constitutional right. It's the right to travel. You must not know what you're talking about. Just stop. Just stop. That's nonsense. You need a driver's license if you're going to drive on these roads. That's it. Just that the right to travel is not the ability to drive without a driver's license. It's the ability to go to different states. It's the ability to get the rights in different states. It's the ability to travel internationally. It's not the ability to drive a vehicle without a driver's license. So if you're going to type that in the comment, just stop, just close this window. I don't need your input because you're wrong. Okay, so the takeaway is refusing might maybe help the criminal case, but it destroys your ability to drive immediately. Some attorneys might argue that it's a calculated risk to refuse the breathalyzer or blood test, but it is not a get out of jail free card. And in many states, like Indiana, when you refuse, they're going to get a warrant from a judge and they're going to get that blood anyway. And now they have your blood and you refused. And so the calculated risk part has gone down the tubes. You got to talk with an attorney in your state to figure out your best course of action. But in Indiana, in the counties where I serve, is usually not a good idea to refuse the certified chemical test if an officer has probable cause to believe you operated a vehicle while intoxicated. So, do you see the pattern here? All these myths come from the idea that the justice system will protect you automatically, but it will not. The system is designed to gather evidence. Your protection does not come from the police, it does not come from being nice. It comes from knowing the rules and having the discipline to use them. Now, if you want to be prepared and not scared, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We post national videos every Tuesday, and I love it when people comment on these videos. In fact, why don't you like this video and subscribe right now and leave me a comment. If you don't know what to comment, here's a few ideas. Hey, Mark, here's another legal myth I would like for you to talk about. Leave me an idea. Maybe a future video. I would love that. Maybe you want to tell me who I remind you of. A lot of people say I remind them of Joe Pesci, Turtle from Entourage, Tuco from Breaking Bad. I got a few, John Iswaguama, I can't say his name. He's the comedian. I want to know who it is. I prefer you leave me something nice, but if you really feel strongly, leave me something mean, but be civil. I can take some heat. I'm a big boy. My mom raised me right. Don't be mean though. I mean, come on. If you are facing charges in the great state of Indiana, give us a call. Me and my team would love to talk to you about your options. Our number is 317-632-3642. Remember, this is the most important thing I'm going to tell you. Remember to always plead the fifth.